I'm Kent Working. This is Utah Valley Live. Today, I'll be talking about renting the American dream. And what do I mean by that? Well, the first two episodes in this series about, eventually living in Utah Valley, but kind of working my way from macro to micro there, is first on the American dream and then home ownership as it relates to the American dream. Today, I'm going to we'll see, the whole idea of is it possible to achieve the American dream if you rent? So, just as a reminder, what Chrome's AI tells us, which is kind of a synopsis of what I covered in the first two episodes, is the American dream is the idea that anyone can achieve a better life through hard work and determination. Okay, anyone can achieve a better life. Now, there's plenty we're not going to do, but there's plenty that could be discussed about what is a better life, what is a good life. And in relation to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, what is happiness? We're not going there. What we're going to do is talk a little bit about renting. And I think I have some queued up. Let's see if I've got this ready to go. No, I don't. I have to do something else. Oh, that's what I have to do. Sorry about that. Learning curves. All right. So, renting statistics. And this is from the Zebra, and I'll be looking at a number of websites today. So, one of the issues, which is why the glass is going, one of the issues I had with this particular website, thezebra.com, was they had something in here that was absurd. And I'll see if I can find it. However, just as a reminder, in 2024, it says that about 34% of Americans rented their homes. So we can start right there and say, do none of those people then, by the fact they don't own a home, are they not participating in the American dream? And that's, an interesting question. And so to kind of answer that, let's see if there's anything else on here. A lot of money gets spent and, on and on and on, and feel free to go and look at this kind of thing on your own. But coming into the idea of home ownership, it does kind of bring up the question, which we'll get back to the American dream on this. Let's take a look at this one. Okay, from Realtor Magazine. 7 great, that's nar.realtor, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So 7 reasons to own a home. And I think these are important to go over to help lay a foundation for where eventually I might end up. 1, property appreciation. Yeah, property values go up, but they don't always go up. We had the Great Recession and 2008, 2009, and then at the end of, 1990, 1991, I was actually working as a loan officer at that time. And that's one of the things that precipitated my leaving the industry, is that there was a recession at that time and interest rates went up quite a bit. And so, but yes, property value does go up. But let's take a quick jump sideways on this and take a look at this. So this is Investopedia.com. And this is what they have to say about real estate versus, for example, the stock market. Historical data reveals a consistent pattern. While housing prices have generally kept pace with inflation throughout U.S. history, the stock market has typically delivered superior overall returns. Okay, and then they go into the details of that. So that's one of those things that you say, well, okay, so if I had money to put into a house, then if I put it in the stock market and all I was considering was the property appreciation, then I might do better if I put it into safe stock market type investments. Well, that's back to what realtors say. Reasons that good reason to own a home. Equity. Money paid for rent is money that you'll never see again. But paying your mortgage month over month and year over year lets you build equity ownership interest in your home. Okay, obviously that's a good reason. You bought the house at, let's say, back in 1972, it's $70,000. And you paid into it. You maybe refinanced, but you continued to pay it into it. And not only did you pay off the loan and gain some equity that way, but then property values went up and you gained equity that way. And I'm thinking specifically at my in-laws' house, where that's exactly what they did. They, held that property for 44 years and bought it at $70,000 and sold it at something like $1.6 million. Not a bad investment. Tax benefits. If you itemize deductions on your federal tax return, you can write off or deduct, a certain amount of the interest that you pay on your mortgage. Savings. Well, so this is like equity again, what they're saying. Predictability. Unlike rent, your fixed rate mortgage payments don't rise from year to year. Okay, that's fixed rate. And that's great. If you have an adjustable rate, since I mentioned I was a loan officer back in the late 80s, when I first started for American Savings Bank in Santa Monica, I believe the fixed rate loans were going for around 13%, 13%. We couldn't even imagine a time. And in fact, our primary product that we were selling was an adjustable rate mortgage, which at the time was called it was a no-neg amortization. Okay, so positive amortization is when you pay. Sorry, I have to pull back into the cobwebs of my brain. Positive amortization is when you pay your mortgage and the payment is sufficient to pay off the interest and a bit of the principal. It's positively amortizing. Negatively amortizing means that your payment is not sufficient to cover even the interest on the loan. And in fact, without paying any principal down, your total amount owed goes up because you didn't even cover all the interest. That's a negatively amortizing loan. And at the time in 1987, for example, Home Savings was the big lender, and American Savings had just been bought by the Bass brothers, and they were trying to be aggressive. And so Home Savings had a negatively amortizing loan, which was very popular because it had an introductory rate of maybe 6%. And then it could go up the next year if and reach to closer what market value rent or interest rates were, and it could continue going up until it found that, which means that you could potentially get into the house, but your balance might actually go up of what you owe. So we were all, oh, hey, those are really bad loans. You want a no-neg loan. That's what everybody says. No-neg loan. And so ours had a limitation of 2% that it could move in any 1 year. And so you're relatively safe. Oh, we thought we were so smart, and we sold loans that way. And we'd say things like, oh, the stock market, they're never going to let, fixed rate loans go below like 9%. Why would they do that? They need their money. Well, I was still relatively young and naive and believed the stuff that people said. But ironically, as it turned out, because of the way that interest rates dropped, that the home savings loan, which was potentially a negatively amortizing loan, actually was a better loan to have for the first 5 years because interest rates dropped quick enough that they took advantage of the full interest rate drop, whereas our 2% a year limit meant that if you had the home savings loan, it was better than the American Savings Bank loan. I bring that up not because anybody needed to hear it. as much as to say that we just don't know. We don't know what's going to happen with interest rates. We don't know what's going to happen as far as loan products that come out. You don't know how much property, whether or not we're headed towards, right on the bubble, like in 1990, 91, or in 2008. We don't know. So everything's a little bit of a gamble. But those were adjustable rate mortgages. In this case, what the NAR is, not NRA, the NAR is bringing up is that fixed rate mortgage payments are fixed over a term. Now, maybe you got a 15-year, maybe you got a 30-year. But either way, while your property taxes will probably go up if you're in an area that's improving, your principal and interest on your loan will not, which means that you will be able to count on paying that much. Whereas if you were renting, depending on the terms in your lease, your landlord could potentially raise, and they have done that around here and around everywhere, not just here in Utah County, Utah Valley. But your rent might go up 10, 20% a year, and that could happen. And all of a sudden you could find yourself priced out because you can't afford it. So one of the things they're saying is owning a home on a fixed rate mortgage allows you that kind of predictability in your expense, at least that portion of it. Freedom. In this case, the freedom, as they say, the house is yours. Well, it's actually the bank's, but you get to live there. You can decorate it any way you want, choose the types of upgrades and amenities and so on, which is really hard to do if you're renting. And then stability. Okay, so this one, it's true. It's possible to rent and stay in the same place for a number of years. And yet it's far more likely that if you potentially owned a home that you might stay there. Not so much on that. So those are why people go ahead and end up preferring to own, is because of those advantages. But then there are some disadvantages. Let's take a look at those. Maybe. This comes from our friends at Zillow, and I use them, You Betcha. We'll go ahead and verify who I am. So here's some pros and cons that they have. And we just kind of went through all of those on the other site. And tax, pretty much the same thing. Reason you might want to consider renting for now. The cost of renting may be generally less expensive than buying the same quality of home across the majority of markets. Okay? That makes sense. You don't have to come up usually with a down payment, although it should be said there are government and other programs that at times, which kind of got us into the problems we had in 2008, or leading up to 2008, that you could get in with 3% down. So you're buying a $300,000 house, you might get in for $10,000, $15,000. Well, that's certainly less than first and last month's rent, but it certainly isn't necessarily the 20% down that has been. It's kind of the magic number to typically avoid any kind of mortgage insurance. So yeah, it's less expensive. You have the freedom to move. It's true. Your lease is up. You can leave. You don't have to try and sell the house. There's usually no or low maintenance costs. Yeah. And you don't have to worry about the property declining. And for anybody that actually owned a property or purchased a property in 1990-ish or in 2008 and caught themselves at the top of the market, it meant, in the case of 2008, probably till 2015 before they even came close to returning to the values. And so there was a real downside to investing in your entire life savings or perhaps proceeds from another property, or taking out a big loan and buying a property for $400,000, only for a year and a half later to be worth $300,000. You're underwater on your loan and you're stuck because, you cannot actually afford to live there. You can't afford to leave. You're really stuck. So back to the American dream. Let's take a look at what's going on outside, though. Where are we? Let's see. There we are. Right there. This is from redfin.com. The rise of the rich renter. Well, that doesn't apply to very many people, but I did think it was interesting that apparently there's some kind of trend going on where